Shalom, 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 shalom. Baruch Hashem. Oh, let me turn this on real fast. Turn this light on real fast. All right, here we go. All right. Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. So as you guys can see by the title, we're going to be going over Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7, Beast. Now, first and foremost, I want to say this. If you haven't watched the Daniel 2 understanding, watch that because this is just, a continuation of that, right? First, I talked about the statue, and now I'm talking about the beast, which is essentially the same prophecy, just different imagery, right? So the most important part about this, the beast, are the horns and the little horn, right? In the statue, it doesn't get into the a little toe or the extra part of it, the prophecy. You get the extra part of the prophecy with the beast. So we're gonna get into that. We're gonna talk about that. And it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. So if you didn't watch the Daniel 2 one, make sure you check that out. You check that out. You check that out. That's a very, very great one. All right, so we ain't gonna spend too much time. You know how I do. I like to get in here, get it done in less than an hour. So that's what we gonna do. And this one's gonna be even faster than the Daniel 2 one because I don't have to go through the first three beasts. Really, we're just gonna skim through that. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. So, and again, this is my interpretation. Everybody has their right to interpret stuff the way they want to interpret stuff and see things the way they see things. This is my interpretation of how I see it, right? And if you disagree, feel free to comment, make a response video. Because the last video I did, a lot of people wanted to discuss it. So we got into a lot of good conversations about it on Clubhouse and things like that. So again, same thing. But let's get into it. The Beast of Daniel 7, here is how I see it. Here is how I see it. I see it. And I'm sure you ain't never heard this broke down like this before. But let's get into it. As we know, again, if you haven't watched the Daniel 2 video, check it out. It's on my page. So the lion with the eagle's wings is Babylon. Like we already know that. The first was like a lion. This is verse 4. The first was like a lion. It had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon 2 feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Right? So this is Babylon, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, just like the part of the statue, the golden head of the statue, Babylonian Empire. So like I said, we're going to get right through these first parts because it's not really no new information. It's the same thing as the statue. So we're going to breeze right through the beast. The bear on one side with 3 ribs in its mouth is the Medo-Persian Empire, also known as the Achaemenid Empire. Verse 5 reads, and behold another beast, a second, like a bear. It raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth between its teeth, and it was said thus unto it, arise and devour much flesh. Again, this is King Cyrus. This is the Persian kings, the Persian empire. This is what this is, right? Again, we're gonna breeze right through it. It's nothing new here. You're gonna get all that in Daniel 2. The one like a leopard with 4 wings and in its head, excuse me, with 4 wings and 4 heads, right? This is the Macedonian Empire, right? After this, I beheld, lo, another like a leopard, which had upon one side 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast had also 4 heads, and his dominion was given into it. This is the Macedonian Empire. This is what Alexander the Great, right? We all read about the four winds, the in Daniel 8, the four horns, like so we're gonna do Daniel 8 too as well, but again, nothing new here. Macedonian Empire. Right in the fourth kingdom, as we know, how I see it, is the Roman Empire. Right? After this, I saw the night visions, and behold, the fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and devoured and broke in pieces, and stomped the residue with its feet, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. All right, this is the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, right? And what's significant about this, again, well, what's really not significant is the same thing. I keep saying it. Watch the Dan YouTube breakdown. I get more in depth about the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic. Get into that, right? So it's the Roman time period. Now, I have this highlighted in red. It had 10 horns. This is where we're about to get into the good stuff. Had 10 horns. Let's discuss the 10 horns. As if the people that saw my Dan YouTube breakdown, the 10 toes and the 10 horns are the same, right? If you watch the Daniel 2, you're gonna see more understanding about the 10 toes on how I get these 10, right? So you have the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, the Franks, the Vandals, the Anglo-Saxons. These tribes played key roles in the fall of the Western Empire, the Western Roman Empire, and the formation of the medieval Europe kingdoms, right? So that's five of the horns. The other five, the Rashidun Caliphate, the Umayyad Caliphate, the Abbasid Caliphate, the Seljuk Turks, and the Ottoman Empire. These Muslim dynasties and empires progressively weakened Byzantium over centuries, leading to its final collapse. Right? So you have Western Rome and Eastern Rome, right? Rome split. You have the five most known are the five Germanic tribes that's most responsible for the fall of Western Rome. And then you have the five Islamic powers that's responsible for the fall of Eastern Rome. Right. So these who I believe the 10 horns are. Just like in Daniel 2, the 10 toes. Same 10. Same 10. Now a lot of people are gonna say the 10 horns are on top of the head of the fourth beast. They have to be a part of that beast. How can you explain that? Got it covered. This is how I explain these 10 horns being a part of the fourth beast. This is something I touched on in my Daniel 2 breakdown, right? On the western side, the Germanic tribes, they claim succession of the Roman Empire. Right. So the Holy Roman Empire, also known as the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation after 1512. Right. So the Germanic people or Germanic king formed and reestablished on the west the Roman Empire in the name of the Holy Roman Empire. Right. Usually headed by the Holy Roman Empire emperor, it developed in the early Middle Ages. Charlemagne, a Germanic king, that's the five, right? The Germanic king. These are the Germanic tribes. This is the king right here of the Franks, Charlemagne. And we're going to touch more on the Franks. Right, Charlemagne, a Germanic king, was crowned emperor of the Romans by Pope Leo in 800 CE, thus restoring the Roman Empire in the West for the first time since its dissolution in the 5th century. So, how I understand the horns to be on the head, especially when it comes to the Germanic, is because they claim succession of that same empire. That this is why they are the horns on that empire because they claim succession. Now, on the other side, the Ottoman Empire was a powerful empire founded by the Turkish tribe in the 13th century, reaching its peak in the 15th and the 16th centuries. It controlled vast territories across southeast Europe, Western Asia, and North Africa until its decline in the early 20th century. After the conquest of Constantinople, Mehmed claimed title of Caesar. So just like on the western side, the Germanic people claimed succession of the Roman Empire. On the eastern side, the Islamic power claimed succession of the Roman Empire. He based his claim on the idea that whoever possessed the imperial capital was ruler of the empire. So both, let's go back here, both these signs of the 10 horns, 5 and 5, the Germanic 5, the Islamic 5. When the Islamic 5, when the Islamic power finally destroyed and conquered Constantinople, which was the Roman city, the Roman capital, he claimed himself as Caesar. This is why they are the horns on the head of the fourth beast. This is why, because they claim succession of that same empire. Right? So let's get into the fun part now. let's 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 get into the fun part now. Right? The little horn. Everybody want to know who's the little horn. What's the little horn? The little horn that plucked up three. Let's read it. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one, before three of them, excuse me, before which three of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking great things. Right. So you have three horns, which are part of the original 10. And then you have an 11th horn that comes up. So in Daniel 2, we only get 10 toes. We don't get this 11th entity. In Daniel 7, we get this 11th part, this 11 horn that comes up and plucks three. Now, who are the three horns? Remember, the three horns have to be a part of the first 10, right? So the 10, who are the three horns? I understand it to be, in my understanding, one is the Franks, one is the Anglo-Saxons, and one is the Ottoman Empire. Right? So Anglo-Saxons that settled Britain and formed England. The Franks founded the most enduring medieval kingdom, with Charlemagne uniting much of Western Europe. Right? This is the Holy Roman Empire, right? So we have two that founded England. One that founded England, one that founded the Holy Roman Empire, and then we have the Ottoman Empire, ultimately conquered, Constantinople and ending the Eastern Roman Empire. Right? So I believe those are the three horns, right? And the little horn, you would have guessed. America. I believe America is the little horn. I believe the United States of America is the little horn. Right? And remember, the little horn has to pluck up three horns, right? It says a little horn emerges, displacing three of the original horns. So this new horn has to displace three of the original 10 horns. Remember that. It becomes exceptionally powerful, even arrogant, a mouth speaking great things. So remember, the little horn has to arise during the time of three of the 10 horns and displace them. That's what the prophecy says. So you cannot have 10 horns back there and then you have this one horn that's super in the future. It doesn't rise, it has to rise during to displace three of the original horns. That's important. All right, so let's continue. This is my interpretation. I'm just make that clear. This is my interpretation. Anybody has a right to disagree. Anybody has a right to see it different. I'm just giving you how I see it. Right, my interpretation. The Anglo-Saxons, Britain, the Franks, France, and the Ottomans, the Islamic Turkish Empire, are key horns in the rise of global empires, especially influencing Europe, Middle East, and the Americas. So when you look at the world today in the past really 100 years, the Middle East, Europe, and America Middle East, Europe, and America. That's the three key parts of the world that's really shaking things up. Right. That's why, in my understanding, and make sure y'all hit the like button. Hit the like button, tap the like button, subscribe, man. Because after this, never mind. But you hit that like button and subscribe. Right? So this is why I believe those three horns play a part. And by the way, we're living in the time of the horns, for the record. Some of it played out, but we're still living this out, for the record, in case people were wondering. Right? So this is why I picked those three. When I look at the world, when I look at the history, this is why I picked those three in my interpretation of this. Because again, those are the three that kind of shape the world and shape the global powers as far as how the world is today. The Anglo-Saxons, Britain, the Franks, France, the Ottomans, when it comes to Europe, Middle East, and Americas. Right. The United States is the little horn, an initially small power that arises from within these empires' influence. The U.S. disrupts or replaces these powers in significant ways. Now, if you know history and you look at the relationship America had and the foundation of America when it comes to the Anglo-Saxons, the Franks, and the Ottomans, you will see how this plays out, right? We have the Revolutionary War. This uproots Britain's control over the colonies, right? How did America get started? They come over here, the 13 British colonies, right? And then that's the foundation, the formation of the Little Horn. That's the beginning of the Little Horn. This is where the Little Horn emerges from one of the other horns. The Little Horn emerges. Remember, the Little Horn has to arise, right? Let's go back to that. Let's just read it. Let's go back to that. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another horn. So the little horn has to come up among the three horns, right? Before which the three of the first were plucked up by the roots. So when we get into the Revolutionary War, the little horn, the 13 British colonies, which turn into America, is the little horn that comes up amongst them, right? So this is how the little horn uproots Britain's control over the colonies. All right, the Anglo-French War, right, set the stage for U.S. expansion by breaking French dominance in North America. Now, if you know about this war was fought mainly on the land of the 13 British colonies, right? So this is how the shaping and the forming of this little horn, how this little horn is slowly but surely arising and getting powerful and doing what it's doing. Again, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. This happens through decades and years. This is not at the snap of a finger. This is decades of time going by when you go through the statues, when you go through the beasts. So the little horn, it gets, the Anglo-French wars. Boom, it starts. The Revolutionary War. Boom, it starts. Boom, the little horn is on the scene. Still small, but it's on the scene. And then when does it really become a world power? World War I marks the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, after which the U.S. asserts itself as a dominant Middle Eastern power broker, right? So these three points in history is how the little horn slowly forms, slowly rises amongst them, and then boom, it's now a world power. This is how the little horn rises from the midst of the three horns. Right, let's read some more information. The 13 colonies played a frontline role in the Anglo-French War, fighting alongside Britain to oust France from North America. This was the French and the Indian War. This war, the French and Indian War, was essential in breaking French power in the region, which not only uprooted one of the major horns, the Franks, because remember, The Franks is one of the horns. So this war did not only uproot one horn, the Franks, but it also paved the way for the colony's own revolutionary aspirations. Ironically, the very war that expanded British power sowed the seeds of colonial dissatisfaction, taxation, disputes, and rebellion, culminating in the American Revolution, where the colonies fully uprooted the Anglo-Saxon horn, Britain, and rose as the little horn prophesied in Daniel 7. So this was kind of like a 1-2 punch. The 13 colonies teamed up with Britain against the French, got them up out the way, and then by them beating the French, Britain began to get more powerful. They start really oppressing the 13 colonies even more. This caused the 13 colonies to say, wait, we don't like this. They turn and rebel against Britain, the other horn. They revolt against them. They beat them. And now we have the formation of the United States of America. This is the little horn rising as prophesied. This is it. This is you see what these are the two horns. They're being formed. Right? The third uprooted horn is the Ottoman Empire. So how did the Ottoman Empire play? The same Ottoman Empire that defeated the Eastern Roman Empire way back then. How the heck does that play a role with America? People that don't really look at history, they don't know that. But that same empire that made the Roman Empire collapse, America, the United States of America, played a role in their collapse. Let's read it. The third uprooted horn is the Ottoman Empire, which held vast control over the Middle East and an Islamic world. While Britain and France had long struggled against the Ottoman dominance, it was during World War I that the tide truly turned. How did the tide turn? The United States entered the war in 1917. So after the 13 colonies, because I want to walk you through it, right? After the 13 colonies teamed up with Britain to take out France, right? Then America goes against Britain, uprooting them, becoming the United States the official little horn. Though Britain and France are now warring and struggling in World War I, America, the little horn, comes into that, and then look what happens. Providing critical manpower and resources that enabled the Allied victory. As a result, the Ottoman Empire was dismantled, its caliphate abolished, and its territories divided, marking the fall of the third horn. In the aftermath, the U.S. rose to prominence in the Middle East, especially post-World War II, exerting influence over territories once held by the Ottomans. This fulfilled Daniel 7's image of the small horn that emerges, uproots three, and asserts itself as a dominant global force. So America really becomes this global dominant force after World War I and World War II. So we see through history how this little horn formed, rises amongst the three, and then play key and crucial parts in uprooting all three of these horns. Right? By the 20th century, the United States, once a small colonial offshoot, becomes the dominant force, speaking great things, asserting economic, military, and cultural influence worldwide, fulfilling the picture of a small horn that rises and overshadows those before. So this little horn that rises, let's go back. This little horn, again, this is the horn, right? Again, this 11th horn is not a part of the 10 horns, right? 3 of these horns are uprooted by a new horn. So it's 11 horns. People don't really talk about that. I consider the horns, and behold, 3 came up among them, excuse me, 3 came up among them another horn, a little horn, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were the eyes. So you have 3, do you have 1 amongst the 3? So you have 11 horns altogether because there's 3 horns are the first horns, a part of the first horns, and there's 11 horn that comes up. So you have the 3, the Anglo-Saxons, the Franks, the Ottomans. The Anglo-Saxons, England, the Franks, France, French, and the Ottoman Empire is the Ottoman Empire. And we just, we go through how America is formed within these, comes up amongst these 3 horns, and then at the end of World War II in the 20th century, America is now the global power that all these nations look to. So this is why I see America as the little horn. And again, we're still living in the time of the little horn. This prophecy is not all the way fulfilled. Why? Because we have the Messianic era, right? But behold, judgment shall sit in his dominion. Whose dominion? The little horn. And his dominion shall be taken away, to be consumed, to be destroyed unto the end, and the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. Their kingdom, an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey them. So all dominions after the Messianic era, well, during the Messianic era that comes, the little horn is going to be destroyed. Their dominion, their power is going to be taken away. God's kingdom is going to be established, and God's kingdom is going to rule all domains of the world. So do I believe this happened yet? No. But I do believe we are living in the time of the little horn right now. I believe America is the little horn. Right. So, like I said, this one was going to be quicker than the other one because we only had to deal with really one part in detail. But let's go through it briefly one more time, real fast, for the people that maybe came in late. All right. So let's get into it. The fourth beast is the Roman Empire. This empire has 10 horns on its head. These 10 horns are 5 of the Germanic tribes that take down Western Rome, 5 of the Muslim powers that take down Eastern Rome. Why do I believe these 10 horns are on the head of the Roman Empire, are attached to the fourth beast? Because both of those is the Islamic power on the east lets you know that they are the successor, they rule the Roman Empire. Right? It says after the conquest of Constantinople, Mehmed claimed the title of Caesar, Roman Emperor. He based his claim that the idea that whoever possessed the imperial capital was the ruler of the empire. So he claimed Roman Empire. This is why he's a part of my statue on the head of the Roman Empire. And also on the west, it tells you right here, Charlemagne, a Germanic king, was crowned Emperor of Rome of the Romans by Pope Leo in 18 CE, thus restoring the Roman Empire in the West for the first time since its desolation in the 5th century. Right? So both these sides, both the Germanic side and the Islamic side, or you can go the Christian side, because if you watch Daniel 2, you know this ties to Christian and Islam. So both the Christian side and the Islamic side, or the Germanic side and the Muslim side, claim succession of the Roman Empire. That's why they are on the head of the fourth beast. Right? So the little horn that comes amongst 3 horns and uproot 3 of the 10 horns. I believe the Anglo-Saxons that formed and became England, the Franks that became the Holy Roman Empire, and uniting most of Western Europe, which later became the French or France. They're one, and the Ottoman Empire is one. The United States is the little horn that uproots these 3 horns. And I trace it back to history. The Anglo-Saxons, the Franks, the Ottomans are key horns in the rise of global empires, especially influencing Europe, the Middle East, and America. So these 3 pretty much shaped the global empires of the modern world when it comes to Europe, the Middle East, and America. We know the Anglo-Saxons, England, but they also crossed the water to, the so-called New World with the 13 British colonies, right? The United States is the little horn, an initially small power, because remember, the United States started at 13 British colonies. Small, little amongst the other world powers at the time. Remember, the British Empire was huge at this time. The British Empire is the greatest empire of the world as far as land that it conquered. The biggest empire of the world, the British Empire. The Americans came up and rose during that time period, right? So started off as a small power and then rose and displaced and became powerful than those three horns, right? The key points in history that I tied the displacing to is the Revolutionary War, right? This is when the 13 colonies rebel against the British and form what we have now as the United States of America. The Anglo-French Wars. This is when the 13 colonies teamed up with the British Empire, and then they pretty much get rid of the French stronghold in North America, right? So this is three of the horns. This is what two of the horns, and then a small horn starting to form, right? World War One marks the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. So again, the same power that collapsed Eastern Rome and made an official end to the Roman Empire, America had a major hand in its collapse. And this is really when America really start to be the America we know, right? So again, more information. The 13 colonies, it's pretty much what I just said. The 13 colonies played a role in the Anglo-French War. They team up with the British, and then after they get what they do, they start to expand. Now the British start to expand after the 13 colonies helped them get rid of the French foothold in on American soil. They start to expand. Then this caused the 13 colonies like, wait, y'all oppressing us now. They rebel against them, and this is the formation of the Little Horn, America now, right? So this is a direct result of the two horns that I include in here, right? And then boom, the third horn, while the French and the Britons are in, well, I can say England, while the France, England, they're in World War One, struggling against the Ottomans, because the Ottomans was a power to be reckoned with. While they're struggling, America joins it, and because they join it, we join it, America, we join it. This pretty much allows the tide to turn, and now this was a result in the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, and this is when America really start to become a global power, right? So the 13 colonies which came to America, this is the rising and the bubbling of the little horn that's rising in the midst of the three horns, uproots them, and now the little horn is the big dog, the top dog today, right? But by the 20th century, the United States, once a small colonial offshoot, becomes the dominant force. Now America is the top guy. America is talking junk. America is the big bad guy. America is doing the people wicked. And again, if you watch Daniel 2, I tied the Christianity and Islam into this because this plays a part into it, right? And then we get into the Messianic era. The Messianic era has not happened yet. Who knows when it'll happen? Maybe in the future, but it happens during the time of the little horn, and I believe we're in the time of the little horn. And these time periods are not small time periods. This happens through decades, hundreds of years, 20s of years, right? So again, this is not nothing that's just gonna happen like that, right? When we go through a statue, thousands of years go by. The same thing in this beast, thousands of years go by. So the time of the little horn can be hundreds of years, however long it's going to be, I don't know. But this is just my interpretation, how I see it. I believe we're living in the time of the little horn, and the Messianic era has not happened yet. All right. So that's the end of my interpretation of Daniel 7. Amazing through analysts, the reference. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I put a lot of work into this and just how I'm a history buff at heart. So before I was into even the Bible, I'm a history buff. So when I look at the world, when I look at the history, and I put my interpretation, this is how I see it. And again, this is all interpretation, right? Everybody has their own interpretation, how it sees it, how it plays out. Everybody can see it different ways. This is just mine. I'm sharing mine with you guys. Hope you guys appreciate it. If you disagree, feel free to disagree. Drop a comment, hit me up, say, yo, good dog, I saw your video, blah, blah, blah. Let me know how you feel about it, disagree or agree. But this is just how I see it. And it makes sense to me. America is the little horn and how it played out in history. So y'all know me. I like to keep it short, under an hour. I'm at 37 minutes. That's beautiful. I got through this real smooth because I didn't have to spend too much time on the other beasts. Because again, it's the same thing from the statue. Only thing new that needed really new information was the three horns and the one horn, right? So I didn't have to spend too much time. But that's all I have today. Check it out. Leave a comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm about to get up out of here. So Shabbat Shalom.